Ukraine-Russia war. 6 Russian balloons spotted over Kiev, says UKR. Of course, the balloons is never going to stop. They're never going to stop telling us about these circus balloons. At this point, now they are in several countries, just off the top of my head: Russia, Canada, of course, Taiwan, China, Mexico, Latin America, and, of course, everywhere else, I'm sure, in the next week. But this apparently is something that just won't end. 6 Russian balloons were spotted over Kiev, and most were shot down after being engaged by air defenses, the UKR capital's military administration said on Wednesday. It said on the Telegram messaging app that the balloons may have been carrying corner reflectors and reconnaissance equipment. It comes after the White House insisted that objects being shot down over U.S. airspace in recent days are not of extraterrestrial origin. It says since a Chinese spy balloon was downed on February 4th, there have been several more objects which U.S. and Canadian officials have struggled to explain the origin of, prompting some to suggest aliens are involved. So there's no aliens here, and Edward Snowden said it as clear as day. This has been not only one of the best distractions, but it has utilized the right departments. So when these departments call their meetings and when they call all of the press to the right place, those press are infatuated with this because people are gobbling it up. All of the social media platforms are covering every single balloon, this and that. First of all, just step back for a second and really think, if these are balloons or even weaponized balloons, why the heck are they just popping up overnight? Are they doing it on purpose? They must be doing it on purpose if all of a sudden they're using balloons everywhere around the planet. And do you think that Vlad is sending his balloons all over the world? Do you think China is sending their balloons all over the world? Do you think China is actually sending them, writing Russian letters over on Kiev? No. Well, of course, this isn't even like a thing like, oh, there's a lot of derailments, every year. But now that there's been a really bad one, they're covering this kind of thing. This is like they're just coming out with these balloon stories out of nowhere. I mean, like, honestly, the balloon subject is just, it's completely taking away from some very serious things that are going on right now. And these things could very well be some sort of sign of escalation. But I honestly believe that there's something else going on. So what do you think? I want to talk about this and much, much more. We have all of your current events tonight on Marfoogle News. This is getting absolutely absurd. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. They said it's gonna be a good day, almost a Tuesday. It's all good until Tuesday. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. So first of all, the balloon subject, that word is just getting frustrating for some. It's kind of like, I don't know, there's been similar things around the internet that have just, grabbed a hold. So now UKR is basically saying that Russia is now sending these balloons over them. There's so many different ways this could go, but it's kind of, isn't it Occam's razor, like the most simple or the most logical answer is probably the best answer here, which is that this is basically grabbing the attention of everybody. Meanwhile, there are some really serious things. Now, we're in a day where our community calls everything a distraction. It does not matter what it is. There will be 5 people and 2 of them will say it's a distraction. It doesn't matter what subject, and you guys know this too. And most of the time in this community, it's totally a distraction. None of us want to stick out in this community either. But I disagree on some things. Like some things I don't think are a distraction. And in this community, people judge you if you think this is a distraction or that. But I do disagree often with what is a distraction and what's not. At this point, if we are not in some sort of alien invasion, or if they are not doing this stuff, then this is actually to keep our attention fully on this while something even more massive happens. I do think that we are at the cusp of a war. And the reason why we are at a cusp of war, it is very clear. The thing is the people of today really do not have a grasp of what a war will look like. And the people that do have a grasp of it, most of you, are understanding what history has shown us. History is repeating itself right now. And as we speak, people should be getting ready for conflict. Instead, they are focusing on if UFOs are visiting Lake Huron. They have no absolute proof of any of the other objects besides that Chinese spy balloon. And the entire story from letting it cross all the way over our country and the BS line of saying, well, we didn't want it to come down on people. Even if it was the size of the London Bridge, there are parts in the Rust Belt that they could have taken that thing down and it would have landed just fine in the middle of the desert. There's absolutely no reason. You know it's BS. Everybody knows it's BS by this point. But where do we go from here? Again, there might be something bigger here. There might be something else we're going to cover. And by the way, the other night I mentioned, and this is just a theory, and it's not the theory that I'm actually going with, but I thought it was interesting. There are more meteorites, and there is tons of stuff. Look up. I don't know if it's because of the meteor storms or whatever's going on, but I just saw 3 tonight, just shooting stars, and I never see them in my area. We are so overcast and, covered up, but I have been seeing a lot of stuff. We saw a huge flash. In fact, I saw it, and in another part of the state, looks like Willing Witness, Derek Bros, actually saw it as well at the same time. He ended up tweeting that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We have a lot of stuff going on above us and possible theories that we are going through a debris field. So maybe that would make some sense out of the stupidity that they are saying is octagonal objects that we have no proof to show you and everything else. Mainstream media and even politicians touching the UFO subject, it doesn't make sense. But let's get into the show. We're going to talk about a whole lot more. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. When you go there, you'll see that it is all organized by thumbnail. So you'll look for the world in flames, disaster on the horizon. By the way, we have military in our group that are saying we are at the cusp. Meanwhile, while everybody's talking about these balloons, they are moving massive military around, and they are loading up these supply ships. All sorts of other things are going on. Well, we're all looking for ET. So we'll point that out in a little bit. But again, you can find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document here. On top of that, there is an entire section of all of the stuff that you cannot cover, or is the stuff that you wouldn't talk about at a bar. Or the stuff that we just couldn't fit in there. There's some interesting, more scientific stuff down there, discoveries, that kind of thing down in the overflow. So make sure to go there. Every single show before it, we take the time to make a bibliography for every single episode, and it's archived. You can search it in the upper right-hand corner. Also, remember, go to marfooglenews.com/friends if you haven't already. All of our mods that are graciously modding tonight's chat, they all have their own channels. They're creators, authors, artists. Make sure to go check them out as well. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. How are you doing, and what is going on?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So first of all, what do you think about the balloons over Kiev? I don't believe anything out of either one of those countries, but again, why are these just popping up everywhere?
Well, I'd actually believe them over. Yeah, that would make sense. Like, putting up a spy balloon or doing something like that in a conflict zone makes absolute sense. you would expect to see something like that. All the other sightings don't make any sense. With the exception of maybe the first one that came over our country, potentially being what they've claimed it to be is a spy mission or a spy balloon. But I would actually expect to see something like that in a conflict zone. But yeah, this it's the balloon story. It just seems like it's never ending at this point, and it probably will continue. We'll have to keep covering it because we got to see what it is they're going to talk about, or what they're trying to distract us with, or how they're spinning the story, because there's something behind it, or something it's covering up.
Yeah, there's most definitely something behind it. Or just hypothetically, there's just a small chance that it is balloons, and it's possible attack attempts by third party kind of militia that are doing these same, or nation state actors, or people that are just off the record or something. Who knows? But I highly doubt that it's balloons, especially how the White House and Pentagon and how they've done their press conferences. And after the first one, even the very first one right after, you could tell John Kirby was BSing. Oh, it's about the size of a car. It's a car size thing. Yeah, but we don't have a single piece of it. We took it down. But that's about all I got. Okay, sure. And then a bunch more, and now they're saying they're over Taiwan, they're over this. But then they also preface it with, oh, balloons have been coming over for a very long time. So these things have always been around. Maybe we just discovered that China's been spying on us this entire time, and somebody or a wing of our government has been letting it fly. Maybe somebody was paid off and was letting these things go, was in contact with the FAA. We might find out that this is a huge scandal because we were letting it happen. And now I don't, and that also would give some credence to how T-Man and that administration is saying that it would be treasonous if the military did not tell them, because they're saying it happened in 2019 and 2017, and the military knew about it. So somebody's turning their head. Kind of going back to Mark Milley, I made jokes about him on Twitter today, just basically like, maybe he was drinking boba with Xi. But at the same time, he literally told Xi he would give him a heads up before we did a surprise attack. What if there's other agreements between China and our military? Our military finds this stuff out, goes to the very top, somebody like Mark Milley, and he goes, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just let it fly over. It's a weather balloon. Okay, sure. Otherwise, it is something else, and it's a big distraction. And again, I don't think everything is a distraction, but in this community, almost everything is at least called it at least once. Now, so now we know what we're about to not be able to talk about. Theories on 15-minute cities. I guarantee you this is going to be the next filter thing that is going to have little things that pop up under the vid. If you don't know what the 15-minute are, I would highly recommend looking into it. Dex, do you want to cover this? And this, by the way, there's going to be pieces that are, I believe that the more that people get this out there, the less that will be our future. Because when people understand what this actually means, and this is what I was talking about this disastrous way we are headed, as far as a civilian who is not a trillionaire, we are going to be controlled in every last way. We're going to own nothing and be happy. This is what they think. Dex, do you want to talk about the cities theories?
So the notion of these cities is that you can get to everything within a 15-minute walk, and that's the idea of designing these in the future. Apparently, this conversation and this topic has been taking off quite a bit in the circles on TikTok and other places, including around our circles. A lot of people have talked about it too, as it relates to planned developments, and the thought about planned developments and how that goes back to agendas from UN and other places like that. And that does tend to create a lot of consternation. But now they're labeling this one, as the title says, a conspiracy theory for this particular topic. So it's just rather interesting that that's how they're labeling it now. They're putting it out there and trying to, tell all of us it's silly, you shouldn't worry about it, et cetera, et cetera. But the actual plans are still the same. And these are happening all over. I mean, even in small towns, they're building, work live communities where you put a shopping center and housing and office space and doctors' offices and all that stuff, all within one development right there. So we're seeing it happen everywhere.
Well, Dex, it's just like with what happened with James. They'll call it 17-minute towns, right? That'll be the way. They'll say all of this, but in 2 years from now, they'll say, oh, yeah, no. They're not 15-minute cities. They're 17-minute towns. That other thing, that was just a bunch of nuttos. But our 17-minute towns, and that, you know what? That's what we'll call them. 17-minute towns that they have planned is actually in the works, and they are putting the infrastructure for this. They have the plans, and it's not like some crazy person said, oh, yeah, this is the solution. They're saying that this needs to be our future. And as far as the print of our foot needs to be so small that will be able to track and trace every part of us. So the fact that they're now labeling this a conspiracy means that they're going to start knocking people off for it, and any dissenting views on it, they'll be able to knock off under that guise. And then the people, the very loud people like Chris Sky and others that are really, finding millions of people, and now people are actually talking about it. It is making waves because nobody likes this idea. When they make waves, all of a sudden they turn this into this, and now they can knock you off for it because this is misinformation, right? Meanwhile, over the years, the dissenters and anybody that talks about it gets knocked off, just like every other thing that people talked about and got knocked offline, and it became true later. Do you see those people getting put back online? In fact, Twitter was the only one. Chris Sky was one of the few, and he actually did get put back on, but that was because of the new Twitter, Elon put him back on, right? With a bunch of people that got knocked off 2 or 3 years ago. Any other platform, all of those people that did, any kind of going against the rules of CV, even when the rules of CV changed and confirmed what they said, it's not like they let them back on. So when these theories become true, it's not going to matter because those creators, those people talking about it, those people that are analyzing it and being journalists about it, they got knocked off and they're never coming back. I absolutely believe this because it's not made up somewhere. They said, oh, it was made up in an academy and this and that. They talked about, they may not call it that exactly. They'll call it a 20-minute town, whatever else it may be, but it is coming. And that's, unless something massive happens, unless people really, really fight back on it. But when you see this label on something, just watch. Now you're not going to be able to talk about it. And then Earth's core may be causing strange anomalies. So previously we actually reported that the Earth's core stopped. That's what MSM was reporting. So we were telling you exactly what MSM was saying. They said a study said that the Earth's core stopped. Now, in our community, a lot of our folks follow Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers, and they said that he said, no, it's slowed down. And of course, there's a whole group of other people that are saying, no, the evidence says that it's slowed down, but it didn't stop. And it's not scary or anything. But people are still debating that right now as we speak. And if it did stop or if it didn't, regardless, they're saying that the core is now supposedly causing anomalies. It says deep inside the Earth, something strange is happening that scientists are trying to explain. Abstract breaks down mind-bending scientific research, and it says something strange is happening beneath our feet. Over the years, seismic studies have detected a number of anomalies happening in the area between the Earth's core and the mantle, which were believed to be the result of processes in the mantle. A new study published on Wednesday in Nature suggests that this activity may be in fact related to the Earth's core. As the authors explain in the study, the boundary between the Earth and the mantle represents the interference between the solid silicate mantle and the liquid metallic outer core. And the structure and dynamics in this region are fundamental for understanding heat and material transfer in our planet. Seismic imaging has allowed scientists to discover fine-scale structures at the boundary between Earth's core and the mantle, supposedly. It says these anomalies have been characterized by differences in velocity and density compared to the surrounding normal mantle or core region. Now, I just want to point out, this is tinfoil hatty, but if you remember the big shake that happened, and in fact, more people perished than the entire Japan tsunami with a 9.0 earthquake and a subduction zone tsunami that followed, more people perished in Turkey in that one 7.8 than they did in the 9.0 that it sent a tsunami over Japan. But that happened. A lot of people circled around that and was like, this is really, really weird. Like right after they said that they wouldn't do this, whatever else, boom, it hits, and it really did some serious damage. I just want to point out, during the whole Core Stopped movie, or during the Core Stopped, mainstream media, everybody said that is the literal plot of a 2000 movie called The Core with Hilary Swank and a few other people. And in that movie, they actually say that the U.S. government caused the stop of it because they were using some sort of experimental weapon that could create quakes. So I just thought that was funny. Obviously, anybody who believes in predictive programming may be like, oh, gosh, what if that was true? And the core is literally what's happening right now. Who knows? But I thought that was strange that it stopped, and then about a week and a half later, we have this massive, crazy quake that was very concentrated in the place that they were saying that was doing bad things. Dex, as far as the anomalies, we have stuff going on with the sun, stuff going on with the poles, stuff going on with our core. What do you think about all this?
Well, it's certainly interesting. I think we don't know. This is probably one of those areas that it's very difficult, obviously, to get a lot of information. It's not like we can just tunnel our way down to the core and look around and see what's going on. Just like, even space for that matter is very difficult to get information from. It requires expensive satellites or large telescopes and all these things that it's not calm. It's not just right there where everybody can see it and get their own interpretation of what's actually happening. So I think this just is one of those mysteries that we're going to continue to hear more about. I think it was rather interesting that first article came out saying that the core had stopped, whether it stopped or it slowed, whatever it did something. And now, we've got this new research that's coming out talking about the core. And obviously they're looking at this. So I think there's plenty of people that are going to be spending more time on the core and how it relates, because there are some parts of the makeup of the core and how the outer core rotates around that has a lot to do with the magnetic poles and how those are formed. So it all has to be in harmony or everything falls apart.
And we do have a video from Wages that we'll play here in a little bit because that's talking about the solar events that are going on right now. It says that the evacuation order was lifted a week ago near the toxic train wreck in Ohio, but some aren't comfortable going home. So, as you may know, there's been this huge derailment in Ohio, and it's straight out of the movie White Noise. And they evacuated people. They said it's all good, it's safe. It was vinyl chloride was one of the big dangerous ones, and like exyl acylate, whatever it was. And they told people, go back to your homes. Nobody feels safe here. the people say that, they're getting rashes, they're getting shorts of breath, all of these different things. And we talked about earlier on my news short that essentially the lawyers and the town had a meeting with the company that owned the trains. And the lawyers are telling them basically expect these guys to do nothing for you. If you do get cancer and, you've just inhaled, 50 years worth of carcinogens, they're not going to do nothing for you. That's what they've been told. They were told to go to the doctors and get a checkup, whatever that means. So a lot of them went to the doctor, and the doctors said, hey, we don't even know what to look for. Like, what do you want us to check? And of course, there's people with rashes and skin irritation and eye problems and all sorts of things. And it says an overwhelming stench of chlorine filled the air this week, where Nathan Velez and his wife have been raising their 2 children, quickly burning his throat and eyes. The odor has lingered nearly 2 weeks after a Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous materials derailed near the Ohio-Pennsylvania line, igniting an inferno that burned for days and prompted evacuations in the surrounding areas. While crews managed detonations to release vinyl chloride, which can kill quickly at high levels and increase cancer risk, the stay-away order was lifted 5 days after the derailment, after air and water sample results led officials to deem the area safe. Now, I just want to point out, wherever they might have tested, say it was good there, if I actually lived there and this thing was happening, I would not believe the first round of testing. I would personally stay at families or stay at a hotel, just stay anywhere else. But a lot of people didn't have that ability. It's not like everybody has family to go to or the money to go to a hotel. But right now, there's other people going there and saying that this stuff is dangerous, and that there was that they were doing their own tests in different places, and they were finding a whole lot of really bad stuff. It says the East Palestine, Ohio fire chief said at the time that it was safe, and governors of both states that day said air quality samples had consistently showed readings at point below safety screening levels for contaminants of concern, but also advised private well users to opt for bottled water and offered free well testing. It says now, a week after residents were allowed to return, bottled water should remain the rule until more test results are back. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine told CNN this morning that Wednesday, noting water in the first well tested was, quote, fine. So they test one well and go, oh, yeah, well, we tested best 1 out of 1. So you're good. Drink your water. And it said, still, he said, don't take a chance. Wait until you get the test back. As that warning echoes and other worrying signs emerge, many in East Palestine remain plagued with anxiety, and some refuse to return amid fears that the water, air, soil, and surfaces in the village of 5,000 are not safe from fallout from the freight wreck. Some, like Velez, are even spending small fortunes to try to keep their families safely away from the place that they used to call home. Again, it costs a lot of money to stay away from home, especially when you're also probably paying rent or mortgage on top of that. Plaintiffs' attorney have invited residents to meet Wednesday afternoon, which we talked about. They met and basically said, hey, they're not going to do anything. So, Dex, with all of the different chemicals here, with what is being speculated right now, this could be one of the worst environmental disasters that's happened in this area for a very long time, and they don't truly know how big this is actually spread.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. If I lived there, I would definitely be worried. We don't know the long-term effects. We don't know how long this stuff sticks around. We do know, they did tell us that vinyl chloride, the most concerning chemical. There's many others that were there too. This one being the worst of them all. Its boiling point is like 7 degrees, or 7.88 degrees Fahrenheit to be correct. So that means when it first cracked open and it's coming out, because it's stored in a liquid form, it's basically turning to gas immediately. So that's everywhere. And I don't know how much, but plenty of it. enough to obviously cause the initial evacuation. I'm concerned. I know a lot of people there are much more concerned than I am because they live there. And there's all the long-term effects and the side effects and what may or may not happen, with water supplies and airflow as, the air streams move, as the water streams flow, both underground and on top of the ground. It can have a lot of effects on everyone around it.
By the way, I know we have a lot of Ohio Foogle fam. You guys know I have got a lot of family in Ohio. My family did none of my family, extended family, live near what just happened in Palestine. But since I've always represented like the OHIO, we've gotten a lot of viewers, especially when I was small. A lot of Ohio folks even thought that I lived in Ohio because I repped it so much. But I know we have a lot of Ohio people. If you are from East Palestine, please let us know your story. If you want to call in on one of the call-in shows, let me know. We will have the call-in system fixed, so we will be having call-ins every other show again. We had to. I know it sounds like, oh, just get it, just have it done. But we have a really complicated system. I don't think people realize how complicated our system is to do our calls and do everything and to do the phone numbers that people can call and all that. But we will have calls again, and I would love to hear your story. If you experience the Palestine event in any way, let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and comment down below if you have a story about this. / you can email either one of us, adam@marfooglenews.com or Dex, DEX, @marfooglenews.com. And then as far as I went over this, make sure to go over to the Marfoogle News short that I did on this. But the town hall basically said, we're not going to do anything for you. You're screwed. They're not going to give them settlements unless they sue. And I bet you there will be a class action suit at some point. But who knows how big this is going to be. I don't know if something like Norfolk could go bankrupt, but if this did affect all of the Ohio River and affected millions of other people, it might even be the end of Norfolk, or they, change their name and sell it to their brother or something, or to the Cayman Islands, and then come back as a different name, and everybody gets screwed. But the meeting didn't go too well either, and a lot of people do not believe the answers that they are getting. Again, it would be really great to talk to a local here instead of the mainstream media, but this is being very back page news kind of thing, while the balloons are taking front page. So kind of nuts in that way. And then before we go to Wages has an update on an incoming G2 storm. I do want to remind you guys, if you do want to protect yourself against EMP, in fact, all 3 phases of an EMP, I would highly recommend getting one of these on your vehicle, on your trucks, your cars, your motorcycles, your boats. They have an EMP shield for, of course, your solar generators and for your gas-powered generators. They even make one for the home that, once wired in by an electrician, can actually protect within 250 linear feet of your house, everything plugged in. That's basically most houses. As far as 250 linear feet is a long way. So again, if it's wired in, all of your devices, your fridges, your TVs, everything that you have plugged in will be protected. This is also the company that has worked with agencies like DHS, DOD. It's a Keystone military-tested product, and now they're officially on the DEMSO team, helping them harden the Texas grid on the DEMSO team. So make sure to go check them out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Of course, we have been with them since they were making these out of one small building in Kansas by hand. Of course, now they have, the DHS, DOD contracts and stuff. But we started with them when they first started off, and this company is awesome. They're still veteran-owned. It's 100% American-made. They're still handmade. They just now have more buildings, and they are doing a lot better than when they first started, because they were a tiny company. They sent us Christmas videos and would walk around the whole factory and say hi to the Foogle fam. So it's a really, really sweet company. Everybody, including Andrew, that worked there are really great. Their customer service is great, and they bend over backwards to help people. But as far as this goes, I think this will save lives in the event of a CME. And again, a CME will happen. It's just a matter of if our technology has caught up and is hardened by the time we have our next Carrington level event. If not, we're in for a really, really bad time. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP to save $50 and to support our independent channel. Affiliates like this help us run our show. We don't have a multi-channel network, and we don't have any multi-billion-dollar company behind us. If anything legally happens to us, we have to do it ourselves. So thank you guys. marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right. And then Dex, do you want to intro Wage's video and what this is about?
Absolutely. So Wages has given us an update about a incoming, I guess there was a couple of flares that, and before this he told us, and we mentioned it last night, there was a whole lot of spots that are actually pointed at Earth right now, more solar spots than they've seen, or sunspots than you typically see, all gathered around, and they're all pointed right at us. And those typically make it easy for things like solar flares to pop off or CMEs to pop off. So he gave us an alert today saying, hey, it looks like we've got some new stuff. And that's what we're going to go over here. So Wages has put this together for the Foogle fam. So let's jump right in.
And thank you. And just real quick, I want to say thank you to Alex Gallegos. Gallegos says BlackRock is one of the rail companies who pushed Ohio governor to set ablaze the chemicals. I did not know that. Gates and BlackRock, and I haven't confirmed that, but I would assume that all of these huge companies have that behind it. BlackRock owns everything. It says Gates and BlackRock are working together to acquire land around the U.S. I wonder if the land's going to get cheaper around these areas. That's a solid point. Alex Gallegos, thank you for your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Hey, Marf and Dex, do you guys think the storm beneath Michigan will blow this upwards north towards the Midwest Michigan? It has reached our water. It has reached our water. AJ, I don't know anything about the weather, but if I was you and if I was anywhere near it, I would definitely be concerned, and I would just be careful and get your don't drink your tapped water, that's for sure. And I would definitely try to get some people together that are like yourself that are also concerned, and try to don't stop asking questions. Even ask you can call your local government and say, what are you guys doing to make sure that this isn't coming up our way? That would be my suggestion. And then Saul Rosenberg says the balloons are not a new phenomenon. All satellites are balloons. NASA says literally us. It's the Hebrew word for deception. Saul Rosenberg. Again, thank you. And then, hey, Adam, Dex Mods, and Foogle fam, love this channel. Which, by the way, the balloons, no, they're not new as far as look up Operation Starfall if you get a chance. And then Kay Parker Fraser, hey, Adam, Dex, Mods, and Foogle family, love this channel. Well, thank you. All right, let's start this video, and I just want to shout out to my other half just brought me food. So while we watch this, I'm going to scarf it down. Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate you. Let's see here. And I think I got that.
Personally, and I took some time off. Haven't really. Hey guys, Wages World coming at you with the Marfoogle News Space Weather Update. Guys, I know I haven't been here for a minute, but I'm still around, I promise you. Just been having some things going on, and I had to take care of some things here personally, and I took some time off. Haven't really been posting a whole lot to my channel either, just when the big things would happen. But I'm here now, so let's kind of jump into this. So guys, what are we looking at here? Well, this is SOHO. It's a satellite that sits out in front of our planet, always looking at the sun. It's about 1 million miles closer to the sun than what we are, but it's from our perspective. So as you can see right there, right when I started that up, you can see what we call a halo signature. We've had a a CME come right off in front of the sun, directly at us. Okay, I mean, it's like right in the middle. I mean, you couldn't have got more of a straight shot at us. So this one is going to hit us. And what I talk about with a halo signature, right there, you can kind of see how that kind of looks like a halo. It's just a term we use to try to explain this. That's all it means. Now that black disc is an actual black disc on the camera. Has to be there to block the main light of the sun, or we can't see anything. So, you know, I always thought that was interesting, but that's why we call this a halo, because you can kind of see this peeking around that occulter disc. And it does give us a good idea what direction these things are going. Now, we can't tell if it's coming at us or going away from us unless we go look at a different view, which is what we're going to do here in just a second. But I want you guys to look at that for a second. This one is significant. They're expecting this to be like a G2 geomagnetic storm when it hits. This thing is going to hit us. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go over and show you the NASA model. This is NASA's model, and what we're looking at here, guys, is a top-down view on the left and a side cut on the right. The sun is in the middle, obviously. The Earth is there at the yellow ball. These dashed lines, that's our connection to the sun. Interplanetary and magnetic field lines, okay? Everything in the solar system is connected to the sun by these lines, right? And that's actually how the solar wind even gets here. It travels on that line. But this CME, you can tell where this thing is going to hit us. This model showing a direct hit from the top-down view. And when you look at the side view, what are you looking at? Well, you're looking at a direct hit too. So it's not going to go north or south. Looks to be a direct hit. And we have a third perspective here too. And this is our orbital line stretched out in a straight line around the sun. So as you can see right there, it's showing a direct hit there also. So yes, NASA is saying this is going to hit. So let's go see what NOAA is saying about it and see if their model agrees. Okay, guys, this is NOAA's version of the same model. You got density on the top and you got wind speed on the bottom, solar wind speed. So what you're going to see, I'm just going to drag the cursor here, and what this does, it gives us 2 days behind us, and then it gives us a forecast 5 days out in front. I don't trust it out that far because it always changes. You know, we're 93 million miles away from the sun. Things kind of hard to, you know, pinpoint that stuff. But this does do a fairly good job. So what we're doing here, I'm going to show you this model, and we'll see if it's agreeing with the NASA model. So as I pop off here, you can see that CME pop off the sun right there, right? So as I drag this through, it looks like a direct hit. And it does look like we're going to, you know, at least this model saying it's going to be a pretty dense hit. You can see here where the density is up to 30. What's normal? 4. Okay. Now wind speed, that's where it kind of slacks in the strength. 300 to 500 is normal. So, you know, it's not moving excessively fast, which is why it's going to take a couple days to get here. So NOAA and NASA both are agreeing here. So yeah, both these models are showing the same hit. So I do think that this thing is going to hit. And so what's it going to do? Well, probably a G2 at least. Okay, a G2 geomagnetic storm. We're already in a G1, at least we were about a couple hours ago from a previous CME, just a side blow from it though. No big deal. We've seen some increased aurora and some things like that. Nothing big and huge. But as you can see, we're saying G1 over here too. We may catch another side blow from another CME, but these are all small ones. And this one here may not even hit us. But the one I showed you just a few minutes ago, you can definitely see, yeah, that's the G2 that they're showing there. Now this could get higher, especially if we're juiced up, and we are right now. So, you know, let me show you what that all means. I'm going to take you guys and show you how juiced up we are. This is our magnetosphere. This is magnetic pressure, okay? And anybody that's been with me for any length of time or has seen me talk about this at all, you guys know that this is pretty juiced up, right? Typically, it's just a thin red band around. Our planet is engulfed in magnetic pressure right now. And as things keep hitting us and bouncing back and forth, when we're juiced up like this, it does, you know, it will allow things to get in easier. So, yeah. So that's why I think that we have an outside chance of getting to like a G3, especially the forecasting on both those models comes true. But yeah, so we got to wait on that because there's not a whole lot of data collection between us and the sun. There's a couple satellites out there, but it's still few and far between, which is why we don't get too much of a warning. With bigger CMEs, they can get here in a day or two. Fast movers. A typical CME between 3 to 5 days. So, and that's kind of what this one's moving at. But it is pretty dense. So, we'll have to kind of wait and see on that and see how strong it hits us. I do want to show you what it looks like, though, on the SDO satellite. This is extreme ultraviolet. It's the 304 angstrom part of our light spectrum. And what this does is it filters out everything else but the 304 angstrom. It's extreme ultraviolet, and what that do, it allows us to see specific gases. So I believe this is ionized helium, which is the 304 angstrom, and we see filament releases really good on this, and that's why I'm using this one to show it to you. But as you can see, what I'm going to do, it's going to happen right here. I'm talking about the CME that happened today. So as we move forward here, let's see what it shows us. You see that right there? That's all that it was. You see how insignificant that looks, right? Why does it look insignificant? Because the sun is the background. It didn't happen here on the side with the blackness of space as the background. It's really hard to see. Okay, that's why. This was significant, and that's why I showed you guys the other satellites, so we can look at that and compare. But let's show you what it looks like right now. This is the most updated version of SDO right now. So let me because we do still have other things happening right now. And what are we looking at? Well, there's a flare that happens over here, which is a sunspot that's getting, there it went. See that? Right there. Look at that. Okay? That's going to rotate in. So that's going to be facing us here in the next day or two. You see these little dark shadows? Those are filaments. Those are large ones. Those can lift off at any time. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this stuff and see what happens. So here's what we can expect. This is a G2. This is kind of what we're forecasting out, going off of what they say. High latitude power systems may experience voltage alarms. Long duration storms can cause transformer damage. Now these are at high latitudes, closer to the poles, right? They may have to try to steer some of the satellites back into their correct orbit, because when you get more particles, especially dense particles, it causes drag. What's that do? It slows it down. So when those satellites get slowed down, they actually start to fall out of orbit. So they have to kind of steer them back in. Obviously, we're going to see some increased aurora. And that's the other thing too, guys. We've been seeing pink and red auroras. Those typically didn't happen unless we got hit with big ones in the past. Now we're starting to see it with lower level. And when we start seeing it with lower level stuff, that means that our magnetic field most likely is weakening, and we already know that is actually what's happening. So we're also keeping an eye on that. And, we do the best we can with that. It's kind of a hard thing to, pinpoint day by day. We have to wait on all the data and stuff to come in. But those are signatures. When we start seeing those different colored aurora, that's why we pay attention, right? So anyway, guys, that's your update. If anything else big comes, I'll pop back on here and let you guys know. I will be posting to my channel here in the next day or two. I'm going to get onto a more consecutive, consistent basis, guys. So I got a new look coming too. I got some stuff I'm really excited about sharing with you guys. So anyway, guys, God bless. Yahusha saves. Foogle fam rocks. And yeah, you can drink this Kool-Aid.
And that, again, if you have not checked out his channel, that is over on marfooglenews.com. That was his update on all of these events. Keep in mind, when he was going over that, the high latitude, and I'm sure he would say the same thing if he was here, one thing that they learned in like 2013 and 2015 is that certain events and certain solar flares, which they believed would only affect the higher latitudes, ended up affecting down at the very bottom. So some pretty, I guess, unprecedented events happened where places down below ended up getting affected and had transformers blow and comms break and everything else. the G2, G3, these aren't the ones that, will knock everything out. But we are heading into, of course, the 2025 is going to 24 and 25 is going to be the peak. Oddly enough, that lines up with the Deagle report of us having also less people on the Earth. Who knows if they saw that one coming? But as far as anyone who follows all of the solar the community, they are expecting one of the most unpredictable cycles we have ever seen in our lifetime, and most likely in the last 20 lifetimes. So it could very well be bad. A Carrington level event could knock out everything. That's why we really need to be vigilant and make sure that we keep track of it. Our show is always going to bring you these updates. Again, it's very helpful to have Wages World. If you have not checked out his channel, make sure to go do so. In fact, this is what his channel looks like if you get to the right place. Again, that's Wages World. You've got the blue Kool-Aid. Again, this is the Kool-Aid you can drink. All right. And let's get back into the news. We have China warns of retaliation against the U.S. and entities in the balloon saga. Dex, so obviously we talked about the balloons. Balloons may be a huge distraction, whatever else. Like I said on Twitter, if this did get us into a world war, the balloons would be the win the award for the stupidest Fantastic Freddy ever. But it seems like now things are escalating because of these stupid floating objects.
The interesting thing here is is what they may or may not target. Like, is it going to be cyber? Is it going to be another device? Are they, could they be extreme and go after a satellite? It sounds like they want to do something in retaliation. I don't know exactly what would be the equivalent unless we actually have a balloon flying over their country that would make sense for them to take down. But I don't know that that's even the case right now. So to me, the question is, what are they going to hit, if anything, if it's just words? But, the flip side is, for those that think there's a lot about this that's distractions, obviously the first one is not. The first one that went down in the water off of Myrtle Beach or in over by the Carolinas, they're claiming it. Obviously, they're claiming it enough to say they're willing to now retaliate for it. So that is not unless unless the distraction is being orchestrated by two big countries that are, for the most part, adversaries right now. Unless that's the case, which it could be, you never know. It does seem like that's legit. And if it's legit and they're willing to go so far as to threaten and potentially retaliate in some way, shape, or form against our own equipment over it, then that adds an extra layer of legitimacy to it.
So, if China did attack us, or, if they ever did try to invade us, I've heard people say, oh, well, we would know way beforehand. We don't know that. And an EMP or something, if you look at how tied in we are with China, as many people said on tweets about China, they say, well, we are so tied in with them. To be honest, what would we do without them? Anyone who realizes how much we actually get from China, the medications we get from China, the technology we get from China, of course, all of the things that are manufactured in China, it will be a hellscape if they actually go to conflict and we don't get a single thing from China again. And people do not realize that. Over the last 30 years, these greedy corporations, actually over the last 50 years, these greedy corporations have essentially sent all of the business and all of the manufacturing to China so that their bottom line could go, of course, down, and their CEO's top dollar could go up. So we're going to be in a really tough spot if we actually do go to war with China. But I want people to realize all of the chips and things that have been manufactured in China, and now they're questioning if there's been back doors put in any of these things. Dragon Day is a fictitious movie, But I highly recommend people watch that, because that movie actually has an idea in it, a theory that doesn't actually, I mean, that very well could be that's actually a realistic scenario. At least the part where the chips have a back door, they end up knocking things down. That combined with an EMP, it really could knock us down. Our military would probably do all right. But when you're talking about, when you're trying to manage a disaster like that at the same time as now all of a sudden you're in a massive world war, that would be really, really, really hard. As far as like World War II, imagine if the U.S. was involved in all these conflicts. Pearl Harbor happened, but then also the main United States, all of it lost its power. And the power couldn't be replaced, literally could not be replaced for 18 months. That would be a disaster like we've never seen. That's what we are talking about here. Even if we are, strategically safer because we're in this, we've got a great place as far as water on both sides. We've got allies. We're kind of in this pocket, and we're very far away from China. If they're going to come with their navy, it will take them time and time. That strategic advantage is shrinking, as they now have autonomous ships that can go silent with no people on them, with drones that can do their job with no risk to loss of life. And they're testing right now. China is drilling, knocking out ports that look identical to ours. They're drilling in areas like us. And by the way, no, I did not have that. Looks Amex Kitsune. Dex, can you look up Beale, Beale, doing readiness drills? They released a statement on the Blue app. Much love from the 916. Hey, thank you so much, Amex Kitsune. Beale doing readiness. Beale doing readiness drills. I don't believe we have that. And then Sol Rosenberg says, East Palestine, Ohio was a few weeks away from rolling out the tracking system called My ID. Black to the Rock, thank you for doing that, didn't like the Mark of the Beast competition. I am not familiar with their system of the My ID, but I know every state is coming out with these digital ID things that have RFIDs in them. And then Neil Nelson, let's see here. Thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate that. And then we have CPPC Tech says BlackRock and Vanguard own most of Norfolk's stock. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, that's so they have the money to pay each one of those people if they wanted to. BlackRock has the GDP of all of the countries combined, with exception of China and the U.S. So they're above every other country. In fact, every other country combined. That's how much money BlackRock has. All right, and then we're going to zip through a few of these so we can get back on track. Satellite images reveal Chinese balloon bases. Dex, can you talk about the Chinese balloon bases? Now they're going a whole other step.
So apparently they've traced the origin of that one balloon and where it's coming from, and I believe the launch pad and the buildings that support them are in the article. You can see the Hainan balloon site for the spy balloons from the satellite images they have. But this is basically what they're saying is there's an entire facility here for it, and there's even another picture of it showing a different type of balloon, one that looks more like an airship, what you would think of as a traditional airship balloon. And you can see that on the launching pad. So this is where they believe that they're launching these balloons, especially if there's been many of them, that's where they're coming from. And that's what they've traced it back from satellite images. So kind of fascinating.
So they supposedly watched these things come from there. So it does give credence to the balloons. But does that mean now that UKR is going to track the ones from Russia back to Russia, or do all of these countries have these? And why the fact that they're pointing them out now when they could have been pointing these out for years? Maybe this was top secret stuff that happened to get discovered. Maybe that, like I said, that Chinese balloon, maybe something glitched with that, because it didn't seem like they were at 60,000 feet if people could just see them like that. By the way, Dex, a lot of the people that saw it with their own eyes, even if it's the size of a jetliner, they would not be able to see it as clear as some of it. It looked like it was really low at points, like over Missouri and Arkansas, and people were getting cell phone pictures. I'm sorry, if you take a picture of a normal plane with the cell phone, even if you have the 100 times zoom that some of the Samsungs have, I mean, you can't get that close with it. I wonder if that first one was low on accident, and it just kind of exposed all of these countries are surveilling their people with these balloons. I don't know.
The first one was at 30, or was at 60,000 feet.
Yeah, which is twice as high.
That's pretty high. But I do know that you can hook up your cell phone to a telescope, and I do know that those, the P9000 or the P1000 or whatever, those super zoom cameras, I think a lot of people were using those to capture those images that we saw.
Well, in the Arkansas, they caught the pictures with straight up an Apple phone, and I think the most advanced zoom on the 14 or whatever it is like. Dex, do you have the new Apple, the 14? The Pro Max has like a 5x or maybe 20.
It's 10x.
Yeah, but it's optical. It's not.
Yeah, it's optical.
They got a pretty clear one.
Not, it's a good one, but it's not a P9000 or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then the White House tells governors thousands of objects in the skies aren't aliens, could be used car lot balloons. So this is the other explanation. This is what's taking all of our time, is possible used car lot balloons. They are just so full of it. It says White House officials were adamant in a virtual briefing with governors on Monday that flying objects recently spotted over North America are not of extraterrestrial origin, according to the... We look like such big idiots. I'm sorry, but we look like the stupidest morons in the entire world right now. Because even for us to speculate on this stuff, if we have the most... Like all of the Twitter memes going around right now of, Vlad and G, they show memes of them laughing at the U.S. like, we've got the baddest air defense in the world, and then it shows them like with their balloons. I mean, like, now they're spending, they're freaking out about possible used car balloons, or at least they're saying that this is what they could be. It's all a bunch of bull. It says there are no UFOs. This is not an invasion of aliens. White House Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall told governors on a half-hour call. It says, I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny because people are communicating this on platforms that are widely viewed, and it's creating fear that is unnecessary. So, by the way, she is saying that they're creating fear out of the UFO thing, that people are afraid of the UFOs actually being here, right? We look like idiots. Think about if you're in another country looking at us and they go, those Americans, they think they're getting invaded by aliens because a couple balloons flew over. I mean, I don't know. It does not make us look smart. But here's another creepy thing, and let me show you this tweet. And let me put this here. So you might have seen this. You might have seen this already, and I missed it for a day, and I thought this was very, very odd. So Kennedy, who is very eccentric to say the least, in a lot of, I mean, he's got whole compilations of him saying funny stuff and weird stuff. He's oddly serious and oddly calm in this. He came out of the briefing on the spy balloons, and check this out. Let me make sure. Let me see. Let me go full screen here. And let me just add this real quick so we don't have any problems with that. Let's see. Okay, so check this out.
This has been going on for a long time.
How long?
At least 2017. And last week we were told 2019. That's what I took away from it today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Lock your doors tonight.
Okay, that last part is what people are talking about. After he says, it's been going on, it's been going on, and then he says that last part.
Lock your doors tonight. Your doors tonight. Lock your doors tonight. Lock your doors tonight. Lock your doors tonight.
You see what I mean? So people were definitely, the responses to it, anything from disingenuous to the guy in the background. Jake says, and this is, by the way, I said I'm going to start reading the replies to my tweets on the show. So thank you guys for responding. Jake at Jake5651970 says, it happened right before your show last night. Very spooky coming from him, especially with the context in which he's speaking too. Now remember, this is the Kennedy that he's made some pretty funky he's made some funny comments. It says it's inappropriate, not creepy, fear-mongering. Let's see here. And then this, let's see here. Turd Ferguson said, Pentagon testing mass surveillance balloons across the U.S. That was August 2019. That's a good catch. Pentagon launching drug surveillance balloons over Midwest. See what I mean? That was an article by Mark Harris in The Guardian. And then USA Today. Good eye. Good catch. He was being funny, says Moon over Jersey. Yeah, what was that? Sticks. I don't think he was being funny, though. So Moon over Jersey, a lot of people said, oh, he was being sarcastic. If you see him when he is being funny, he's obviously being funny. I don't know. Or he is being sarcastic and he's saying, lock your doors tonight, like from the aliens, right? But I don't know. It could be taken multiple ways. Ed Spazmat says, I keep my doors locked and the flamethrower close. Which, by the way, the Boring Company actually does make a flamethrower, so I bet some of you guys have them. Lock your doors every night. What you talking about? Wes Hanna, thank you. All right, and then that was just something I thought was pretty interesting. And then U.S. military downs an Iranian-made drone in Syria. Dex, do you want to cover this one? So they actually did down an Iranian-made drone over Syria.
Yeah, so just basically a week after that quake rocked both Turkey and Syria in that region, we're now taking out a drone there. And it's not that often we hear a lot of action in that area from the U.S. side. So it's kind of interesting, but it's also interesting that this is coming from the I country. It's specifically their type of drone, and we're taking it down. So, with all of the tension going on between and I ran to the store, especially over the nukes and the proliferation of that. I think, anytime we see action in the ME, it's good to pay attention and see what's going to happen next or understand what brought about this. So obviously, we still have troops there in the S country. I think there's roughly 900 troops in the country that do certain missions. Mostly, I'm thinking is protecting pipelines and stuff like that. It's always about the oil when it comes to the Middle East. But yes, that's the story.
Sorry about that. The sound cut out there twice. Gosh. Okay. All right, let's go to the next piece here. Let's see. North Korea seen launching new ICBM military unit amid troop refurbishment. God, they look like some goobers. I bet you he saw like an 80s movie with that jacket and was like, I love it. I want to be that guy. Seoul, North Korea may have launched a military unit tasked with operating new intercontinental ballistic missile ICBMs in line with its recent restructuring of the military. During a nighttime parade last week, North Korea showcased multiple ICBMs that are large enough to strike nearly anywhere in the world. The missiles included what some analysts said could be a prototype or a mock-up of new solid fuel ICBM or canister launchers. It says a video aired on February 9th by the reclusive country's official broadcaster and seen by Reuters on Wednesday showed that a previously unknown flag was attached to the new ICBM's launcher, indicating that the military might have created a separate unit to operate the weapons. Cho Han-bum, a senior fellow at the Korea Institute for National Unification in Seoul, said the flag effectively confirmed the new ICBM unit and could signal a forthcoming test of a solid fuel weapon. So there's always something happening there as far as these guys are they're all a little bit nuts here. So hold on. Sorry about that. It's not even switching over. Dex, I think I have a loose cord. That's what's going on. I'm gonna fix this real quick. If you would just talk about the potential horrors of what nuclear winter would look like, and then talk about North Korea starting this new unit. We also covered that story that they have enough ICBMs to overwhelm U.S. defenses, or at least that's what they claim. Do we have you, Dex?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So
there you go.
Okay, no more Roboto.
Nope.
So this, I guess the story about a potential nuclear winter is one that, should be near and dear to anyone's heart if you live in an area that could be struck, which would be any of these major countries. I think maybe if you're in that new Z area down next to Australia, you probably have the best chance of not having to deal with some of the effects. But yeah, pretty much everybody needs to understand this. So if we had a full-on, full-scale type, even a medium-sized scale, I think we still run the risks of having a major change to the weather, to what happens with all of the fallout, but specifically what happens to the temperature changes around the globe from the effects of a big nuclear conflict. So, that immediately would cause everything from crop failures to massive temperature changes in areas and regions where people aren't, acclimated to that type of change, to the wildlife changing and not being able to survive or migrating and moving. All sorts of side effects come from this. So it's a really fascinating article. It's pretty in-depth if you guys want to go read it. I think a lot of us have talked about this. It's not necessarily one of those meant to scare you, but more just to make you think about, okay, well, if this did happen and if you did survive, what should you prepare for? Like, what are the things you need to think about? And this is why having food, water, etc., are all important, and having it stored and stored up in a way that you can use it. As well as having plans for how to what your plans are going to be for the long term and how long this can last. So, the studies here are pretty significant as far as like what the effects can be, especially when it comes to things like mass starvation and the devastating effects of that across the globe just from something like a nuclear winter.
Well, Dex, I don't know what is going on with this thing, man. I'm going to switch you back over to audio to not the 3.5 here. Hold on. As far as nuclear, I want to point out it doesn't matter what subject it is, if whether it be, I think it's almost every single subject. We do have such a broad audience here at Marfoogle News. Here's the thing: you can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose what you know. I guess the only thing that's off limits in my chat is Satan worshiping. Like, no joke. I think that's one of the few things that I don't allow, and I guess you can pick on me for that. But as far as, like, say people, there's people, including my mods. There's a couple of my mods that believe the shape of the earth is different. There's people that believe, there's folks out there that are, reptilian. There's folks that believe, all of the September 2001 stuff. There's 15 different theories on what it was. But as far as the one that I do say I am super confused by is the folks that don't believe in nuclear weapons. I guess I was able to take basic enough classes in nuclear studies. It was like nuclear fission, and they taught us about some of that stuff. That is one thing that I don't get. As far as, like, even the shape of the earth, there's been some stuff like where I'm like, whoa, that is weird, right? But as far as not believing in nuclear missiles, explain to me, if you are one of those people that have that belief, where did you find the evidence for that? I would love to know. Their thoughts are that it's been used to put us in fear. Almost every subject, people say that's just to scare us. It's a distraction or this or that. I guess I've kind of been burnt out on how everything is a distraction, but at the same time, I do understand it. We should be getting to the bottom of it. I think that I want to get this more back to the centric reason. I do believe I was put here to prepare people for what is to come. And I don't know exactly what's, no man, woman, or child will know when, it's time. And I don't even think I'm not preparing people for the rapture. I'm preparing for people for what I believe is coming, which I think that there's going to be serious catastrophe and a disaster that will unfold very soon. I believed the same thing before CV. I showed you that they were preparing for something, and now I believe they're preparing for a massive World War III. And because of that, people say, fear-mongering this, fear-mongering that. But most of us are not afraid. This is totally desensitized to us. We follow this every day, and we prep for it. And so I do want to get back on kind of the track of let's prepare for every scenario. And then if the worst happens, if you prepare for the worst, anything less than that, you're going to be sitting pretty. If you have an 8-day storm, most of our people will be like, whatever. We're sitting in paradise in our home because we've got food, we've got water, we've got power, we've got everything. What do you guys think, though? Can you guys give me your opinion on how this community is and how torn it is about every subject? I guess it's just, why can't we just, hey, if you believe nukes aren't real, why can't we still just get along? People in the earth shape realm, there is a good percent that just say really nasty things, whereas there's some that they just make their points, and that's okay. That it's this and that, or that all satellites are balloons. That's actually that's okay. That's a nice comment. But some just come in and say, if you cover NASA once, you're this or that, or you're a shill, or you're a dumbass, or this. It's like, why call names? The whole game is divide and conquer. And if everybody starts realizing that, doesn't matter what you believe in or who you believe in or what religion, if you want to believe something else here, but understand my views on it. And I think I was put here to make sure that you guys get through whatever is coming next. That I mean, there's been a lot of weird events that led up to this channel, and I don't think it could have happened any other way. But I also think that all of you found friends and people here. So sorry to go off on a side note, but I really do believe that all of us are here for a reason following all of this. And most of you that have been here for 5 years understand that too. If you can, please bring some new people here, because I think that the more people that are going down these roads are finding out the truth and they're waking up, and the more people that wake up, the less that this scary truth of the footprint, 15-minute, all that stuff, the less that that will be true. Because I think the more people that find out about it, the less likely it is to happen. Nuclear war, as far as that goes, if a nuke is headed my way, there is nothing you can do. But you can do some simple prep if you are, far enough away from it. Let's see here. And then Russia to call the UN Security Council meeting over Nord Stream. This, out of everything, should be on the front page, and this is what could cause a war over everything if there's real evidence to put this in. And I have so many different people's views conflicting in my head. But as far as the Nord Stream, we all knew it was BS. If they wanted to turn it off, they would just turn it off. They wouldn't destroy their own pipeline if they were doing it to, we're not going to give you gas. All they would have to do is turn the damn thing off. They wouldn't destroy their years-long project that they made themselves. That logic it's the Occam's razor thing again. It's like, it didn't make sense. And I almost think that whoever made the plan, whatever country did it, they didn't really think it out too well. Unless, they wanted it to look like it was this back and forth thing and that the U.S. May have did it or whatever. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Seymour Hersh wrote a very detailed article on how he believes exactly it happened. And he says he has sources and said that the U.S. had something to do with it. But this story is not being questioned about. In fact, all of the reporters are asking the national security advisors, Lloyd Austin, John Kirby. The only questions are about these UFOs. Was it octagon or was it a hexagon? Was it more like a 5 or an 8-sided clown? Whereas this would be a T attack done by our country. And if you follow the truth since 2001, who knows? It might not be the first. Dex, what did you think when you saw them? They're calling the security meeting. Again, they're part of the UN as well. But what do you think is going to happen from this?
Well, I think just like they wield their veto power, others will wield their veto power against them, and nothing will happen. But it will create at least a little bit of PR as it's getting right now. But it's not a lot. It's not front page, that's for sure. They dedicated all of 2.5 paragraphs to it. Not much. Now, again, not much of a story at the moment, at least as far as, what they're doing and saying they're going to call up a meeting with the Security Council. But let's not, layer in here all the details that most of these journalists just add to the article to fill you in on everything. No, they're not going to put any of that in here. So it's rather interesting how quiet this story is. But it's also it was known from the beginning it was sabotage. It was later stated from a third party, if you want to call it that. I want to say Finland had gone down and looked and recovered stuff, and they said yes, something did it. So it wasn't a natural cause. Some sort of device did it. And so the real question is who. And I think, that ultimately is the issue. Now, a lot of speculation is out there that potentially we, as in the U.S., intentionally leaked the story so that it could go out, but we did it in a way that we could deny it the whole way through. And that this theory that I'm describing is one in which that it provokes Vlad into having to do a response. In other words, he has to do something in return, and that something in return they're hoping is what will actually kick off the opportunity to start up the conflict against Vlad with the rest of the NATO powers.
So this obviously could just moves the ball forward as far as media covering it. They even said, the Kremlin said, people need to pay attention to this story. What do you think? Do you think it's true? Do you think Seymour had it right? Do you think his source is correct about the U.S. possibly doing this? And by the way, in that article, it shows exactly where they trained the people, what they did, how they did it. Or it could just be, backtracking from having it happen and go, well, if the U.S. did it, how could they have done it? And somebody could have went through all of the steps and made it sound really good. But this is a Pulitzer Prize winning author. Why would he do that? Unless he really thought he had something really big. Or did the Kremlin propaganda go in there and purposely tell him they put the story together, gave him a source, said he's got credibility, and then did it so it looks like this? It could go many ways. Should always question everything with a grain of salt. Before we move on, I want to remind you guys, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/prep. We're an independent news channel, so again, we don't have any back. If you do want an affordable way to get now a lot of bulk food, this is a good way to get freeze-dried, Mylar-packed, 25-year shelf life food for super affordable. As far as there's a $200 off discount when you use the affiliate code. Again, marfooglenews.com/prep. If you just type that in, it's automatic. And then you can get 3 months for $200 off, which brings it right around $600 for 3 months of food. They also have smaller packages. They have a month package. They have a 2-week package. They have week. They have 3-day kits for your go bag. But as far as the 3-month, that is the most affordable that's out there. As far as some of the competitors, they're as high as $1,800. Like I said the other day, those are great foods. All of them, there's a lot of really great, entries into the Mylar freeze-dried foods. But this is the most affordable. And when it really comes down to it, like somebody said, if it's vegan or this or that, you're going to eat food if you're hungry. I don't think anyone would choose to eat freeze-dried food over regular food if they had a choice, if you have restaurants and everything else and power. But when things hit the fan, you add hot water and it virtually brings back all of the flavor. That's why people like freeze-dried. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get a great deal and you can support our channel. We are on an uphill battle since, I would say, 3 years ago when all of those adpocalypse happened. It's been an uphill and a grind the entire time. So thank you. If you find value in this show, I appreciate it. Also, I think that it will save your butt one of these days. If it's not the end of the world, it could be a storm, an earthquake, or a tornado. All right. And then before we go into this, Old Soul says, have you put any thought how we can hear from you if we lost internet? I don't think your main thing, if we all lose internet, you're not going to want to hear from me. But once I can get it, I'm going to get into ham radio operation. I have not been able to yet, and that's something I'm years behind on. But it's not just something you go get it and you do it. But again, I think that would be a good way to connect with people. But I think more importantly, you should connect with the people that are in your state. If you're in Washington, I think everybody in Washington should keep in contact and try to get together. But I think that if we lose the internet, a lot of people are going to be in trouble. Also, download all of your books and things if you have things and print them out, because you won't have a Google to see what berries to eat. Jesus said all these things would happen, says Brandy Buffkin. Indeed, he did. And then look at the Trinity nuclear test site. The genius Oppenheimer and the brass are standing there at ground zero with no PPE. Hiroshima was firebombed, says Saul. Okay. Again, like I said, thank you for giving me that version. Love you, bro. Aloha. And Saul, if you want to email me at adam@marfooglenews.com and send me whatever links, if there's been some things that, I guess, influenced your reasoning on that, let me know, and I would love to see it. They ought to call the Bee administration the Pinocchio gang. Well, we all know how the story went. Watch out for those pointy noses. Says Blue Boy 1968. And then Kenny Cam says, what up, fam? Much love to everyone. Be safe. Well, thank you, and thank you. Neil Nelson, thank you for stopping by. And then nuclear warhead development moves forward at a federal lab in New Mexico. It says a federal laboratory in New Mexico is planned to lead a program to modernize the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal, ramping up production of warhead triggers by 2030. Los Alamos National Laboratory, or LANL, was expected to produce 30 plutonium pits a year. By then, another 50 annually would come from Savannah Riverside, or SRS, in South Carolina. It says together the facilities were intended to modernize the country's nuclear weapons stockpile, although the pits weren't built in the U.S. since the 1980s. The project at Los Alamos moved forward in January as the Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration, NNSA, approved construction of the needed facilities at LANL to begin producing the pits. The work will reestablish the U.S.'s ability to produce the warheads, which ceased in 1989 with the closure of the Rocky Flats plant in 1989. The NNSA repurposed a former mixed oxide fuel fabrication facility after plans to redevelop spent plutonium into fuel were shelved. And it says in total, the NNSA said that the two sites will meet federal statutory requirements for generating about 80 pits a year for the Department of Defense. So Dex, they're doing what, well, sadly, Russia's been doing this for like 10 years. Are they now just like, are they trying to basically turn all these old ones into new ones? Is that how what they're doing with this?
I think they have, the rules don't necessarily allow us, if we abide by them, to create new ones, but we certainly can refurbish our old ones and make them current. Or, you take the internal components, the radioactive components, and you reuse that, and you can update the equipment around it that makes it go boom, so to speak. So I think that's probably what we're seeing here is the expansion, not necessarily the expansion of our assets, but the keeping current the assets that we have so that they're not aged and they're up to date. And that's not necessarily the same thing as, say, the delivery vehicles. So, we've got the Minutemen, we've got the, hypersonics that we build. We've got all these other different types of delivery vehicles that we have, and we can make all those we want. It's the actual heads themselves that we have limits on, and those limits are because we have these treaties between us and the others that say we're not going to make more. We're going to stop, and we all agreed to do that. But as we covered recently, I think there's some questions in the air as to whether or not that's even going to stand moving forward, especially with Vlad.
The whole New Start treaty, if you type in New Start at marfooglenews.com, you can see all the previous shows we've covered about the whole back and forth that they've had. Vicky K, thank you over on DLive. Kimbria, Cognitable, Beer Juice, Life is Better on Stilts, thank you for gifting out a Marfia badge. Vault Music, thank you. Beer Juice, prayers for all the people in Ohio. And in San Antonio, Texas, 2 jets were flying in circles like 10 X's. Huh. The end is near. Send if you can get screenshots, send them to me on Twitter. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's at Marfoogle. Again, that's at Marfoogle. Dex, they already heard my opinion. If you want to hear my opinion on this story, then make sure to go over to Marfoogle News and watch that short. Mine can be broken down into maybe Denmark and the Netherlands are saving these tanks for a real war. But again, Dex, Denmark and the Netherlands rollback decision to transfer of Leopard 2 tanks to UKR. What do you think about this? They're basically, We've seen a lot of these stories backing out of UKR, or at least that's what it seems. But maybe it's just that they need them for themselves.
I'd have to agree that that's the likely scenario. They don't necessarily have a lot. It's not like they're sitting on a surplus of tanks, and they may have done their assessment and said, "Hey, enough of other people are giving up theirs. We don't have that many, and we think we're going to need them." So I think that may be the reason. I don't know that they had necessarily ponied up to deliver a ton of these tanks, but it was significant enough to them that I think it was 18 total tanks that was significant out of their stash that they couldn't let it go.
Yeah, just everybody giving them. You would think it would be because of the 9 closest advisors to Zelensky that just resigned because of scandal, because they got caught with $1 million cars and multi-million-dollar mansions. And you think about, man, all this money that's being sent over there, how does it get dispersed? Do they just bring them trucks of cash, or... Oh, wait, that was how they did in the Middle East. So I'm sure they do it differently there. I'm sure they're like Mercedes-Benz full of caches, right? Because they got to be European with it. And then flying objects spotted over northern PA. So Dex, we even have more spotted objects. Let me get. I have a thought. Maybe since everybody's looking for balloons, now we're just seeing a bunch of crap that was already floating around. Who knows? Do you want to talk about what happened in Susquehanna County?
So this is one person's capture. It's not like this was seen by lots of people, but obviously with a lot of people looking up now, people are looking for things. And this person apparently saw a couple dots, as they refer to them, flying side by side and potentially making, shifts from left to right across each other. And they presented, they being the I-team investigation team for the local news, got a hold of it and took a look, and they brought it to a contact that they had that has flown for the military and flies private jets now, but flew a bunch of other vehicles. And he looked at it and said, well, yeah, it does look like some sort of formation or some sort of maneuver. So, but again, it's only one person's account. It's not like it is a video. There's no way to authenticate the video, or at least that's not what they did. But again, we're seeing more and more stuff, and maybe maybe one of the outcomes of the balloon saga is that more people put their eyes to the sky and look up, and maybe more people put the cameras up and start to look and see, and then maybe we'll see more of what's been happening while we're all had our heads down in our cell phones.
Basically, people are looking up now, and we're catching all sorts of stuff. So it's always been there. We've been spied on for years. Who knows? This is where, and there's always something in the back of my head that tells me that there is more of this kind of stuff going on. I know for the folks that don't believe that anything's out there, that this must be really frustrating, but my personal belief is that we have something coming our way. It would just make a whole lot of things make sense, like Elon Musk and all of these elites trying to get off Earth, go to Mars, speed up the pace on all of these things, look at Elon Musk. His 4 companies basically have something to do with the end of the world scenario. The Boring Company, it's boring like not, oh, this is boring. Boring as in he bores holes under the ground. So deep underground bases type of thing. Their specialty is boring these tunnels, which of course for the public is, oh, it's Hyperloop. That was just a side effect of the company and what it was doing. That has military aspects to it. Underground tunnels and pathways from place to place. That's something the military's done for a very long time. I bet you Elon was like, what can I get government contracts in? I mean, think about it. Tesla, which does Tesla cars, yes, that's successful and it's consumer. but it's also now part of this government thing that's coming. The government is pushing us into the electric. It's like he knew. And as far as Tesla, the power part of it, the solar batteries or the batteries, he now makes the Tesla wall, which is he's going to be the guy that you get the solar panels from. He's also the guy that came up with this battery tech and whatever else. But they're also using Tesla tech to back up our grid. So that's another government connection. And then you have Neuralink, which is going to directly connect our brain to a computer. Now, if you were going to travel thousands and thousands and thousands of miles in possibly 2 years or 6 months in a spaceship, it would probably help if you had your brain hooked up to some computer simulator that would have you running around in fields while you're actually in some sort of containment, juice or something, or frozen. And then, of course, the main one, which is SpaceX. Starlink, which he made, this grid around Earth, which he says is literally going to be a grid around Earth. Everyone questions what the heck that really is. And then BFR, this big friggin' rocket, is supposed to take people to Mars. So one thing that it would make sense with CV and getting us all locked down and all of these things that have happened, it would make sense if all of these things were happening because of something that none of us can know. Something that's top secret that they'll never tell us until the last minute. A don't look up scenario. And you know it. They have told us, the U.S. government has said, if there was something coming this way, they've joked about it in interviews. Would you tell the American people? No, we probably wouldn't. They would keep it secret, and they could even change any data. So anybody that goes, well, I follow the data, I know about this, they can change that data. They can take Apophis and say, oh, it's going to hit, and then everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's going to hit. They go, oh, mistake. Now it's not going to hit. Something like that. It just seems like things have been sped up. But it says a meteor was spotted out by 2 aircraft over South Texas before residents reported hearing a loud explosion and shaking homes. Houston Air Traffic Control received reports from 2 aircraft that claimed to have seen a meteorite west of McAllen on Wednesday at around 8:30 p.m. Dex. As far as this was today, both myself and Derek Bros saw a flash in the sky not too long ago. Yeah, you don't see anything over there, do you? Do you have clear skies at all?
Got a lot of hills and trees, so yeah, we occasionally can see stuff. Seen the ISS the other day, but yeah, not. I haven't seen a meteor in a while.
Now, it says that Vladimir, and we're going to fly through some of the most important stuff here. Vladimir Putin is about to win the ammunition war against the West. This is what they say. They said the current rate of UKR's ammunition expenditure is many times higher than the current rate of production, Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, said this week. This puts our defense industries under strain. In 2 sentences, he confirmed a major hitch in the West's efforts to support Kiev, one that experts have been highlighting since the first months of the conflict. We are running out of supplies. So there's no way I don't think we could be, but if we are, we're giving away all of our stuff. So, what if China was waiting until we run out of crap? And by the way, why does anybody know how much stuff we have left? Shouldn't that be like top secret and classified? Because I would think if you wanted to attack the United States, you would wait until, I don't know, we're out of everything. It says, in fact, UKR is not using excessive amounts of artillery shells compared with historical conflicts. Basically saying there's not as much going on as you think there is. These shortages are instead a stark demonstration of the hollowing out of NATO since the end of the Cold War. Now lifting munitions production cannot be done with an on-off switch. It will require several issues to resolve concurrently. Basically, there's no current war with NATO, so they can't just turn factories into ammunition, factories. They have to do it through the channels they already have, and they have to do contracts and make them and get the funding for it and all of that. So they're saying that right now, as it is, Dex, doesn't that say, like, if we were in wartime, this would be a little bit different, but we're not.
Well, yeah, certainly, and it says that there's probably some layer of we as in the U.S. or any of the other NATO countries are not giving up everything they have. They're only going to give up what they're willing to give up because they got to maintain a certain level of munitions for themselves, unless this is the plan to deplete all the munitions so there's nothing left, leaving NATO weak over time and making it easier for a broader conflict to be successful against NATO. I don't know if that's the actual case. Again, a lot of this stuff's not necessarily public. But as the next article says, we just approved funding for $1.5 billion of production of ammunition. So Northrop Grumman is going to be doing that. They were awarded the deal, and I think Northrop Grumman Systems and Global Military Products is going to be creating that for UKR and to help with the depleting piles of the artillery shells.
Yeah, so we're sending another $1.5 billion worth of stuff there. Dex, did you ever find the Beale drills?
No, I did not.
Okay. I think that was Amex. If you have the information on that, please send it to us, or tag me in a tweet with it over on Marfoogle News. You said it was on a Blue app or something. I don't know what that is. So please let us know what is the Beale, and it was Beale. Did you end up seeing the comment?
It's Beale Air Force Base, and I went to their site and did not find anything.
Okay.
And also searched, did not find anything.
Okay, so we'll look on that. We'll check up on it, and we will update you guys tomorrow. But they said that there was some sort of drill going on, so we'll find out. We try to cover as many of the military drills, all of the public ones, because that's a good way to move military without alarming anyone. And the whole point of this is to try to be ahead of the curve. So thank you for the information. That is appreciated. And then before we move on real quick, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over and check out Energy. If you don't know about the Energy, the Kodiak X2, I would highly recommend going over and looking at that. That is all an all built-in one solar generator. Solar generators compared to gas, they don't need $5 a gallon gas. They're silent, which means nobody's going to hear them from 3 blocks away. And they get their power either from the wall, which this one is absolutely insane. It's got a 1,000-watt charger that can charge it in 75 minutes if you're plugging it in. So, I mean, you can't charge your phone that fast. Think about your phone. Your phone charges at maybe, if you've got an advanced phone, at 45 watts. This charges at 1,000 watts. Boom. So in an hour and 15 minutes about, you have a fully charged, ready to go solar generator battery. But otherwise, you can plug 4 solar panels into it and end up getting 400 watt input from the sun. So you can charge it in about 4 hours, and then you've got yourself a full battery from the sun, or keep it running while you have it. Now the X2 is really awesome because it has the lithium ion phosphate technology, so it has more charges in it, and it degrades over time slower. So after 16 years, they say that it will still have, of using it every single day, 80% of its battery capacity, which is huge, considering the battery capacity in the first place is actually over. One Flex 1500 is 1,000 watts. These are about 1,350. So you'll still have a Flex 1500 battery after it degrades. This is my new favorite go-to bring with you. It's beautiful. It's built like a tank. And again, you will get a huge discount at the same time as supporting us. Make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/energy. That's marfooglenews.com/energy. All right. And then Dex, the 440 units of the U.S. military and the top U.S. diplomat.
So another sighting. I think we saw the sighting on the way out. Now it looks like the sighting of the equipment is in a German port. So it's made it over fairly quickly, and looks like it's heading into UKR's hands soon. So I guess they'll have access to this equipment maybe in the coming weeks. I think it should be rather soon if it's in Germany already.
And do you want to go over the diplomats? So they're going to have it really soon. And then the top U.S. diplomat warns if Ukraine gives up territory.
Yeah, there's been this negotiation or this theory about negotiating of saying, hey, give up a part of the territories that they've already annexed or that they've wanted to annex, and do that in order for peace. But I think, Blinken said this in an interview and others have said this. Hey, if you do this, you're going to basically set a precedence that anyone else can, come in, start an invasion and then just settle for grabbing some land. So if all they're trying to do is really grab some land, they come in and start something bigger, but then back off and take it. So it's not necessarily a good position to necessarily agree to right off the bat, I think. And it also keeps the negotiations at bay. This type of positioning says, hey, we're not going to negotiate. So we get to keep the conflict going, because I think that's seems like they like that, especially with all the funding and money flow and arms and everything else that keeps getting sent over.
They already took Crimea. Think about then in 2014 they took Crimea. So if now they take this much, what do you think is going to happen in 6 or 7 years? They're going to take more. I mean, if that was the case, if you think about it, they took Crimea, years and everything went by, and then if they did give them 20% of the country, what's to stop them in 3 or 4 more years doing another battle and taking more land? I mean, yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. And then kind of a funnier story, Wienermobile gets burned by hot dogging catalytic converter thieves. Yeah, catalytic converter theft has been on the rise, but few could have predicted its latest victim. It turns out not even the Wienermobile is immune to the emissions device bandits. Lowlifes purloined the exhaust cleaner off the Oscar Mayer's 27-foot-long wheeled hot dog as the vehicle made an overnight stop in Las Vegas. They stole the Wienermobile's catalytic converter. And then it became me. Studies show that revolutionary new brain chips may bend your mind in strange and troubling ways. Make sure to go check this out over on marfoogle.news.com. You can read the rest of it. And again, it regards what I was just talking about. Elon Musk wants to put a chip in your brain, but in the brain of some human somewhere. And it says Musk neurotech startup Neuralink has been working toward implanting a skull-embedded brain chip in a human since it was founded. So it talks further into this, and it's basically a Fitbit in your skull. So go check out and read this article. We're out of time, so we're going to go over, and I do want to say thank you to Justin True. I believe I missed you earlier, so thank you. Love you, bro. Aloha from the Foogle fam. Well, mahalo. Soul Rosenberg, look at the Trinity Nuclear Test Site. Got that one. And then Old Soul, thank you. Be Real Beast, my email will have some pics you may share. Would go well with what's going on. Be real. I will find it. Glad I am able to catch a live. Do you know Off Grid is promoting a new giveaway? Have you heard anything about that? Awakened Believer. Yes, we do. And there will probably be more on that later. But again, really cool stuff. If you haven't checked out Off Grid, they are awesome. And then Ray the Way, I am in the Air Force, specifically White Man AFB. Strange things are happening, but at the same time, everyone acts like nothing is going on. Ray the Way, I know, it drives me nuts. And then let's see here. Adam Dex, Foogle fam, and mods, love you all. When your focus is on the right place, then you will not fear what will come. Blessings. Well, thank you, trying to overstand. That's awesome. And the screen name's great. Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot going on, and please let us know in the comment section, what do you think about everything that we talked about tonight? Is there something big that you just found out? Let us know. We can get it in the next show. If there's breaking news, let us know in the comments, and we will make sure to get it in by tomorrow. Again, tomorrow's show will be great, so tune in as well then. Dex, let's go over the web only.
Head over to marfooglenews.com.
And there you go. There you go, Dex.
Head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link in the description. It's right there on YouTube and Rumble. It's easy to get to. Look, lots of stuff going on here, additional content we couldn't get to, and there was a lot tonight. So more updates on the balloon saga from Austin, from why the Sky Patrol got so, rapid recently. Updates on the mysterious whales that have been washing up in Jersey. There's a new article on that about specifically going into that offshore wind projects. There's also some updates around misinformation if you want to learn more about it. The whole political spectrum's in here as always. Who's saying what about who's pointing fingers at who, and who's running for what. That continues to be in the news and will always be there, I guess. Never get away from those crazy stories. But California's population dropped 500,000. That's significant. Homeless encampments have set up inside Chicago O'Hare's airport now. That's significant. Gas bills through the roof. So lots of updates around that kind of stuff. Chat GPT or chatbots and AI coverage there as well, with Microsoft integrating it with Bing, and what's happening. Some kind of creepy stuff going on with TikTok and children. I'm sure everybody here is kind of connected to the whole TikTok programming, but some of the other stuff that's happening, little seedy stuff, it's kind of gross. So that's covered. Apparently those over in Vlad's territory are running out of Viagra. So I guess Russia's going soft, as the headline says. I don't know. Maybe that'll change their minds on this conflict, and they'll say end the sanctions now. Who knows?
Waka waka waka.
Additional UKR updates are in there, as well as even an update coming out of Turkey, a city that didn't collapse, and why. So if you want to know more about that, that is there. All of the updates, it's easy to get to. It's on marfooglenews.com. You can click on the thumbnail for the show, or you can open up that show notes link. It's in the description. It'll take you right there.
That's so funny. Waka waka. Russia's gone soft. That's horrible. By the way, the population in California dropping 500,000, 500,000 people. Now, I know a couple of people that live in California. Aaliyah, obviously, there's a lot of great people that live there. Shannon, BOD, great people. But the majority, and my sister, they're just pushing so many hardcore subjects. Seattle and Washington is really bad, but most of Washington is not like that. But the main cities are. And when your whole state pushes these extreme laws and all of these cultural changes, people just say, screw that, getting the heck out of there. I think that's behind the most of it. But thank you guys. I love you. Thank you so much for making it today. And make sure to share this out, like, and comment. Every YouTuber tells you, but again, if you do feel that this show is different to you, you feel that you get something out of talking with other people, you listen to it at work, take a second and press that button. It does help. It does help make the video go further in recommendations, or at least reach one new person. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. And then you have more people to talk to. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Mods, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Every mod that made it tonight, I appreciate them. Make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/friends and go check them out as well. You have a whole list of really great people over there, so make sure to do so. All right, and we'll be switching over, if we haven't already, over to Marfoogle Jams. So make sure to go over there as well. That's where the shoutro is. The shoutro is where I say thank you to the people that matter most. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's not a shoutro, it's not an outro, it's not dang it. It's not a shoutro, it's not an outro, it's a powder. Chicago. Shimono. Seppuku. Chance Paladin. It's not a shoutro. It's not a shout out. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a Susan. Shoutro.